up, fantasy fans? As always, I'm Shay from the channel Zachary Shay, and today I'm going to be talking to you about my crazy. We're already in the month of July, so I'm going to be talking about my June wrap-up / ranking and my July TBR, which will be a little bit different than prior months. And then I'm also going to talk about my progress on an audiobook. If you're new to the channel, I'm doing an audiobook for one of my favorite authors. I haven't disclosed what the book is, but it is a book I am very fond of. And I'm going to give you an update on where I'm at completion wise. I'm also going to give you some writing updates. And last month I read a snippet of my prologue of my own book, Requiem, Dreams of the Sleepless. This month I decided, I really want my monthly ranking and TBRs to be highlighting my reading. So I'll have a separate video for my writing. It'll be linked. I'll probably put the thumbnail somewhere on the screen and I'll link it down in the bio. I'm going to try to release it same day as this one. And I will be attaching prologue and chapter 1 as one big video for people who are new, who don't want to go back and scrub through the TBR videos of a couple months ago. So those will be a combined video. I'll give a little snippet at the end of this video if you want to stick around for that, but just know that it'll be in the bio and you can access it today. I'm posting these same day. And I'll give an update on where my writing's at, and then I'll go right into the TBR. So wrap up, updates, TBR. All right, so first up on my ranking / wrap ups, I am currently at the time of filming this, which is the 28th of June, but I'm filming it now because I really want to put these out on the 1st. I didn't feel like rushing through the end of these books to hit that deadline. It's the 28th as I'm recording, and I'm hoping to visit my girlfriend this weekend, and if not, to get a lot of stuff done, just work wise. So I'm trying to get it done, and I didn't want to postpone filming to a different day just so I could finish these. But I have about 8 chapters left of Kingdoms of Death, and I have about 5 chapters left of Lord Foulsbane. I mean, I'm almost done with both of these. I'm listening on audio to the Kingdoms of Death, and oh my goodness, Sun Eater is one of my favorite series, and I never want to be someone who goes deep into detail on books I haven't finished yet, or ranking books I haven't finished yet, or rating them. So I'm going to bring them up right off the jump. I'll be ranking these next month. But if I had to guess, these are my predictions. I think Kingdoms of Death is going to be a 5 stars, and I think Lord Foulsbane is going to be about a 4. I'm not quite sure where this will be because it was looking at like a 3.5 up until we got to a certain point in the narrative, and it jumped up to 4 stars, and it's been only impressing me since then. So I thought the beginning was great, and I think these last 100 pages that I've experienced were great, but there was like 100 pages in there that I felt a little meandering, and I do like a slow burn. I love Robin Hobb. I love Tolkien. The world wasn't pulling me in yet, but now it has been. So yeah, that's Lord Foulsbane, book 1 in the Tales of Thomas Covenant, the Unbeliever. Now, let's talk about the books I have finished, and I have to say I read my least favorite book of the year this month by a huge, mega massive margin, and that is The Road by Cormac McCarthy. So I just want to get this out of the way. I've got my long hair, my tattoos. A lot of people think that I am like goth adjacent, that I like darker stories. That's actually, if you know me, I'm okay with dark stories. I love a Malazan, I love A Realm of the Elderlings. I love Wars of Light and Shadow. Those books aren't afraid to get dark, but I like seeing the light in darkness. I like seeing the heroism in depravity. I don't like it when it's nothing but depravity, and there's very few glimpses of heroism. And some people may say I'm being unkind to The Road, but I really did not enjoy this. It wasn't the stylistic choices Cormac McCarthy made. It was the absolute lack of hope and lack of joy, and it was just so bleak and inauthentic to the human experience. We're not all these vile creatures. Humanity's more than that. And I know it's a touching tale of fatherhood, but I'd seen that done in The Last of Us. I've seen that done in God of War 2018. I don't know why I keep thinking of video games. But I've seen this father-son, father-daughter, parent-child type relationship, guiding them through a world. What does it mean when you have nothing to leave them behind, when you only have a legacy of death to leave them? And I think The Road, for what it inspired, Neil Druckmann has said that The Last of Us was inspired by The Road. I'd be very hard-pressed to believe God of War 2018 isn't inspired by The Road. They did it so much better. The character nuances, I know that's crazy saying a video game examined these things better than a Cormac McCarthy novel, but they brought so much depth to this I'll probably discuss more about this and how it inspired those two games and really expound on why I think that The Road didn't really work, especially in hindsight, looking at it by today's metrics. I don't really think it worked. And I'll go into more detail in a separate video, but if I do decide to do that, I don't usually like to be negative, but this was an unapologetic 1 star for me. By far the lowest ranked book I've read this year in my own personal taste. If you disagree, that's perfectly fine. Let's have a discussion, but yeah, not for me. Then things get difficult because I believe the only thing because I haven't finished those last two, the only things I've read this month have been, let me grab it. Both have their flaws. Both had great endings. One has probably one of my favorite protagonists of all time. And it hurts to put these are, well, let me say that these are both 5 stars. And they're both well above The Road by Cormac McStinky. And they are Bold Ascension, which I gave 5 stars. I have a review coming out soon. It's been filmed. I haven't edited it yet, but huge step up from Severing Son. Von Roycroft absolutely nailed. Much like The Road, it deals with legacy, with what you leave one to inherit. But, I think he examines these themes and many other themes much better, in a way more nuanced way, in a way more poignant way. And yeah, it gets a 5 stars. I do put it above the first book in the series by quite a bit. Not to say that the first book was bad, but I think book 2 is a massive step up. But I will say, and I think it's good that I adjust expectations with this. It is one of the most different book 2s from a book 1 that I've read. So I actually, if you love Severing Son, you may have preconceived notions about how Bold Ascension will go, and you may not be happy with it. Likewise, if you didn't love Severing Son, if you weren't, super in love with the world and the characters, I say give a second book because it changes up a lot. I mean, the characters are still true to who they were in book 1, but the status quo is shifted and then shifted again and then shifted again. And, the relationships and characters that you loved in book 1 will not be your favorites by the end of book 2. I can promise you that. And, the relationship between Bryn and Arias, absolute peak fiction. I may have to put it as my number 1 over Bold Ascension because this is probably one of the best endings to a book I've ever read. And I'm talking about Demon in White by Christopher Rocchio, who's quickly becoming one of my all-time favorite authors. And yeah, this beats Howling Dark. This beats Empire of Silence. It's in contention for one of my favorite books I've read this year. It's fighting neck and neck. Actually, no, I'd be lying if I said that this was fighting neck and neck with Warhost of Vastmark. I'd have to put Ships and Warhost over my boy Christopher. But for my favorite non-Janny book I've read this year, I may have to give it to Demon in White by Christopher Rocchio. Absolutely nailed it. I think that there is some criticism being leveled at Rocchio for his prose, for this, for that, for Hadrian's character, and I don't really understand why Rocchio is getting that level of scrutiny. I don't think that Rocchio is the greatest author of all time. I don't put him as high as I do Erikson and Janny Wirtz, but he's definitely in my top 10, possibly top 5, and I think he is the most undeserving of his scrutiny. Because, Erikson and Wirtz have their detractors. They have people that don't like them. I don't understand why so many people find so many things to nitpick about Rocchio. He's not a perfect author. He has flaws just like everyone, but you can tell that there is passion for this story. So I think a lot of the criticism that's being aimed at him is not just. I think some of it's in jest and some of it's comes from a good place, is trying to be critical, but especially the argument that he's derivative, I don't necessarily agree with, especially when you look at the cyclical nature of sci-fi fantasy and how a lot of it has been regurgitated and just different individuals putting their own spin on things. So I think pointing at Rocchio and saying, oh, you got this from this, and this is a little unfair. All right, so updates on what I've been up to. So I am 75% done on the audiobook. Now that's 75% done in that we'll have a good draft of the audio, and then there'll probably be 2 or 3 more qualitative tests of just seeing if diction's lacking here, if pronunciation's here, if I missed a word there, just nitpicking stuff, but not as far as like I need to redo a character voice. So I think we're about 75% done. Really excited with that. I've been talking with the author over emails. They have been so incredibly helpful, so encouraging. It's just such an honor to be working on this book. I really can't wait to share you guys what it is. It is an absolute honor for me to be working on this and to be working with, in my opinion, probably the greatest fantasy author of all time. So very cool. And then as for my book, I recently edited chapter 7. So this last month I went through chapters 3 through 7. So I did a lot better than the month prior. Like I've said before, a lot of it is rewrites because I've grown so much as an author between starting the manuscript and finishing the manuscript. So a lot of the scenes are staying the same, but the POV characters, for one, are greatly condensed. Originally it was like 10 POV characters. Now I'm working with like 5 or 6. And all the characters that had POVs before, they're still primary characters. They still take up space in the story. They're just not necessarily characters you see viewpoints from. And I am excited to share chapter 1 from the point of view of Savandril Savik, who is arguably my protagonist, and that'll be at the end of the video. And going into my TBR for the month of July. All right, so I wanted to keep it a little bit lighter because second half of the month I am reading Mercy Ill is the Fate. And then on top of that, though I think I will finish them both before July, as I said, I'm still working on Lord Foulsbane and Kingdoms of Death. I mean, look at that. And then I've got 5 chapters left of this. So these should probably be finished before this video is even posted. But in case they're not, they're on the list of things that need to be read. Also on the TBR, I want to read volumes 95 through 100 of One Piece. If you'll notice, there's going to be a lot of comics, manga, short stories, and shorter fantasy novels on this list because, like I said, Ill is the Fate is in the second half of the month, and school's coming up in August, and I just kind of want to get these shorter reads under my belt. And, there's a lot of stories I've been postponing because there are so many great, big, epic fantasy books to read. So I definitely want to prioritize One Piece, volumes 95 through 100. I could probably knock that out in a day, but that's one of my TBR goals for the month. This may be cheating to include this. And you know what? I may count it in my list of books I read this year because I'm a hack. But I'm talking about The Wood at Midwinter by Susanna Clarke. I've read her Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell and loved it. I read Piranesi and loved it, though I do think Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell is the better work. So I'm excited to read Wood at Midwinter. I also read The Ladies of Grace Adua, or Adue. It's in the world of Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell, and in a weird way, in the same world as Stardust by Neil Gaiman. Enough on him. But yeah, hoping to read that. I'm hoping to read Wild Skies. This is another one. If I finish Lord Foulsbane, I may actually finish it before this video is even posted. I mean, it's really short. This is by K.E. Andrews, author of Hills of Heather and Bone. I recently did a review of that book where I also show off my new puppy, Millie. Or I guess my girlfriend's new puppy, but our new puppy, Millie. So thumbnail somewhere, and I'll link that down below. Because why not self-plug? And then I'm hoping to listen to Anji Kills a King. Because one of my... I got a comment in my... top 6 audiobook narrators video, and I really love Moira Quirk's narration. I was told that Anji Kills a King is narrated by Moira Quirk. Also, Blood Over Brighthaven's narrated by her, but Anji's on the shorter side, so I may knock that out first, and if I have time, I'll listen to Blood Over Brighthaven. I also want to read The Exile by Ryan Cahill. If you've noticed a motif of extremely short books, that's on purpose. Yeah, I really love Dana Tiris in Of Darkness and Light, so I'm excited to read this novella entry in his story. Now we're going to get to... Oh, yes. I have a buddy read with Tom Orange. We're going to be reading Sorcerer's Legacy. He watched my interview with Janny, and he was really intrigued by it. This follows a woman that is a war prize, and she is pregnant with her dead husband's baby. And that's how the novel opens. And it is a very unorthodox love story. And Janny Wirtz is freaking great at love stories, by the way. I know she probably doesn't like to market herself as that because she doesn't want to be roped into that audience because her books don't read like romanticises. It doesn't romanticize love in a way that feels inauthentic, and it doesn't paint a story full of lust. It's a very authentic love, but I do think that she is one of the best crafters of love stories. You can see it in The Gallant. You can see it in Volume 3 of Wars of Light and Shadow and War Hosts of Vastmark. I won't name what characters, but it's really well done there as well. And yeah, I'm really excited to read Sorcerer's Legacy. And it's a shorter read. And then we get into our bigger boys. We may not even get to these this month, but I'm going to try to read By Blood, by Salt by J.L. Odom. She is such a cool and kind individual on Instagram. I see her post stories a lot, and she just seems like a really nice, down-to-earth person. She's a fellow veteran. So yeah, I'm really excited to read this militaristic. I hear that people who love the desert military storylines in Malazan really enjoy her books, so excited for that. And then this is the one big one that I may not get to this month, but if I don't, I'll definitely get to it in August. And I'm talking about Return to Edan. I just got my copy of While Darkness Gathers, and this series I've been thinking, especially with the ending we got in Prophet of Edan, I've been thinking about this book nonstop. But I may not get to By Blood, by Salt and Return to Edan, depending on how quickly I read these shorter reads. Because Ill is the Fate, that's going to be the halfway point of the month. I really want to give that my focus. And Return to Edan is not something I want to rush through, but I absolutely love Philip Chase's prose. I just love his world, and the ending of Prophet of Edan was captivating. But I also do like that I took that break, because Prophet of Edan really felt like the ending of an arc, even though it's a trilogy. And maybe I won't feel this way after reading Return to Edan, but I do think Prophet of Edan is a decent enough stopping point. If you want to get other things read under, Way of Edan, it was a good book. And it felt like it had a good ending, but I do think it is better to read Way of Edan and Prophet of Edan close together. I may have that same opinion to Return to Edan. I may have been like, hey, I was wrong. You should read all three around the same time. But Prophet of Edan seemed to finish up a lot of plot lines and open a couple new ones. And I hear that this finale is spectacular. Jake from Nerd Level Rising has told me that it's like the best in the series, that it made him cry, and he doesn't usually cry, and I usually cry, so I'll probably be sobbing. But yeah, I'm hoping to get to that this month. If not, it'll be in August. So I'm going to go over the comics I want to read this month, and also potentially video games I may play this month. I'm not usually a gamer, but I've been getting into it lately. Last month I played Final Fantasy IV, really loved it. The month before that I played Clair Obscur Expedition 33. Me and my girlfriend played A Way Out. I may do reviews of these games, but I may not. And this month I'm hoping to play God of War Ragnarok. So that's my to be played, I guess. My TBP? Yeah. So yeah, I'll probably play God of War Ragnarok, and I may play Final Fantasy VI, but odds of me playing 2 games in a month are pretty slim, especially if they're longer. But comics. So I want to read Helen of Windhorn. Britain from Some Okie Dude. We want to read this one together as like a little buddy read, which, it's a pretty short comic, but man, this art is brilliant. I want to read The Many Deaths of Layla Starr. Heard really good stuff about this. I've heard that this examines mortality and death in a very thought-provoking and very honest and real way. Another book that is supposed to examine mortality really well, All-Star Superman by Grant Morrison. I haven't always loved Grant Morrison. Some of his stuff is hit or miss. I did like Doom Patrol, but I liked the HBO series a lot more than the Grant Morrison run it was based off of, if I'm being completely honest. I don't like his beefing with Alan Moore, because in my opinion, Alan Moore is one of the greatest literary minds. And I'm talking about prose format and in graphic novels. I think he's brilliant. And I also want to read, this is the big one of the month, the George Perez run on Wonder Woman. I have a deep, deep, deep love for Wonder Woman. I think she is one of DC's best heroes and just one of the best superheroes, full stop. I think that, she was originally my least favorite of the main trio, Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman. She has quickly become my second favorite. I'm sorry, Superman. And she may be gunning for Batman. I got to see what the Tom King run's like, though. And I'm hoping to read the Tom King Batman run at some point. Those are all my planned reads, games, comics, manga, and if I have time, I may get to some Vinland Saga. I'm currently on volume 5 of the 3-in-1s, so I think that's volume, quick math, like volume 13, right? Because if there's 3 times 4 is 12. So the fifth one should be 13, 14, 15. Yeah, I'm on like volume 13 of the originals. So, yep, should be doing that. And yeah, let me know what you guys are reading, what y'all been up to. Leave a comment if you want. Peace. Life is an assortment of steps. You cannot carve a path standing still. And even if the road leads to death, even if your boot prints are colored crimson, and your steps leave naught but blood and salt in your wake, is that not better than the tepid trail chosen by those too stagnant to take the first step? Siv, captain of Verity's wastrel, shard of Aliel, last daughter of Aja, the demon bitch. She of many names pulled upon that tavern door and stepped through the accursed entrance. The signpost swayed, though no wind coursed through the lifeless back alley. A morbid reminder of the path she chose.